Ved, Pranam Mantra. Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahano Bhunaktu, Saha Viryam Karavavahai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu, Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. In our this series of talks on Ved, today we will take up Maya Ved, which comes in Rig Ved book, a 10th book, and hymn number 177. Sorry, Maya Ved means piercing the wheel of Maya. Now, naturally, you'll find this entire concept and the very idea of piercing the wheel of Maya very intriguing and interesting, because those of you who are familiar with our talks, a series of talks, know that this term, Maya, keeps coming repeatedly in Vedanta. Now, before we get down to that subject, Maya Ved, just let's have a very quick look at what exactly religions stand for. Those of you who might have read my book, The World of Religions, or if you have some idea about different religions, which is, you don't have to go deep, even if you have just a very superficial idea about what Christianity, Islam, Judaism, and then Zoroastrianism, and then Sikh, Jainism, Buddhism, Hinduism stand for, you'll find that you can broadly categorize them into two. One is they ask you either to love God or to obey the commands of God. Fair enough, because obeying the commands of God itself means loving God. There's not much difference, although when Lord Jesus Christ asks us to pray to God, there has to be a longing. There has to be a longing. It's not a routine affair. It's not ritualistic. Most importantly, there is no element of fear or obligation in that. That's very important. And the second one is where the religions advise its adherents to control their mind variously, as say in Buddhism or Jainism or in our yoga traditions, even in Vedanta. So, whether that is through the analysis of your mind or through the control of your senses or by various means, whatever the means, the what what exactly you achieve, whether you love God, you obey God, you try to control your senses, or you try to analyze your mind. When they say that, look, the real in life is beyond what we see. What exactly they wish us to know? What exactly will happen to us if we listen to their words? The most important thing, as we know, is you realize the permanence that is behind this impermanence. We all know that we can experience this world. We know this world. We know this world through our five senses and through our reasoning, through our intuition. But with that, we also know that it's a changing world. If it's a changing world, there are two possibilities. Either the change itself is its nature. For example, we have Kshanik Vijnanavad. So there's momentary consciousness. Now, in physics, those of you who know something about physics, they have this huge problem of what is permanence? What is permanence? Because without permanence, you cannot understand motion. That's a very interesting thing. Without permanence, you cannot understand motion. So our Buddhist friends, they will say that there is nothing called permanent because permanent is Atman only. However, whether it be Nirvana or Kshanik Vigyan or be it Allah, be it God, be it Atman, you realize the permanent. That's the most important thing. Because God won't change, Allah won't change, Kali won't change, Atman won't change. Whatever it is, it doesn't change. And so what? If I know that this is a pen and not a pencil, how do I gain it? How do I gain? You gain by becoming one with it. Because call that supreme reality by any name. It is not an object of this world, which, if you know, may be useful to you, may not be useful to you. Like sometimes we have, like today in this cyber age, where there is super highway of information, continuously, mostly useless and meaningless information is coming up to us. How do we make use of it? No, it has no use. And there are certain things that we make use of. But in this case, when you truly know that God exists, and then you go all out to realize it, it's not like going to a zoo and seeing a lion and a tiger. Like if you see a lion, a tiger, well, your knowledge base increases, no doubt about it. And when you read books based where these are character, then well, you enjoy that more. It's just a just increase of your knowledge base. But that doesn't happen in case of spirituality. It doesn't increase your knowledge base in the sense that we understand in this common world, in this day-to-day world. You become one with that supreme reality. And once you become one with that supreme reality, well, your very nature changes. You are no more this ordinary mortal being. You are not this ordinary person who gets swayed by the happiness and misery of this world. You are not that ordinary person who sheds tears and waits for events that might bring smiles to his or her lips. And that's not something transitory. This knowledge, this becoming one with God. For example, those of you who belong to the old school of thoughts, in earlier times, marriages meant becoming one. No, whenever there was a marriage, both husband and wife, they are couple, they are one. So, does that make them happy forever? No, that doesn't. In stories, yes. In reality, no. But not in this case. Here, you become one with God, become one with the supreme reality forever. And hence, exactly for this reason, we have this hymn from the Rig Veda, 10th book, 177 number hymn, where the sage is asserting that he has seen that supreme reality, which is beyond multiplicity. So now, small thing that usually we have this idea that the Vedas are mostly about rituals and this and that, and in today's time there has been such misinformation. Most things that we know, they are wrong. However, things that we study in Vedanta, like Supreme Self, the reality, Maya, etc., they come in the four Vedas itself. Sometimes directly, sometimes indirectly, sometimes there is hint, and sometimes there is an elaboration. However, As we have mentioned in our first talk, that the Vedas are about prayers. And because they are about prayers, they do not dwell much on self realization, but that does not mean that it's not there. Now, what is self realization? And what stops her? What stops us from realizing ourselves? Actually, it's not so difficult to understand. As far as we ordinary persons are concerned, for us, this world is very much real. We are born into it. We have grown here. We are used to it. We have been trained. We have been trained how to handle the adversities and success in this world. Whatever our attitude, and whatever we want in life, we get from this world. So, whether you call it a hypnotic state, a dream state, or whatever you may call, ultimately, the world is real for us. However, every now and then we get some shock. Some dear ones leave. Our dreams are shattered. And for various reasons, sometimes due to a situation beyond our control, we have to shed tears. And then we start wondering that is all this indeed real? And then you go out in search of people can who can teach you the secret of real happiness. It is then that you reach a spiritual master. When spirituality is spread in the society for everybody, it's known as religion. So religion is a mass thing, whereas spirituality is an individual thing. Spirituality is never for the masses. Spirituality is an individual thing. And then you may meet somebody. You come across someone who will tell you that yes, he has seen God, as we will see. Swami Vivekananda, when he was a student, Narendranath, he went about asking all the great and famous saints and sages of that period in Kolkata if they had seen God, and no one had the answer. And Sri Ramakrishna said, yes, I have seen. However, if you come to persons like us, we will say that, no, I haven't seen, but I can guide you. Guide you in what sense? It's something like, sometimes you want to make a journey. And then you meet somebody who has some idea about that journey. May not be fully. So we tell you that, okay, fine, study Gita, study Upanishads, etc., etc. And that's how your spiritual journey begins. And then you might get some master, and you may not need a master. You might get a guru who will give you some mantra and will ask you to repeat that mantra, meditate on the meaning of it. And as you start meditating on the meaning of it, slowly your mind starts getting concentrated, your love for God starts increasing, and you take the first steps on the path of spirituality. And then you realize that these spiritual masters, whether they come from the Vedas or the Upanishads or Gita or say Sri Ramakrishna, they will always say that one absolute undivided consciousness, call it by any name, that is the supreme reality. Some will say you are one with it, and some will say that you are related to it. It makes no difference whether you are related or you are one. Ultimately, it is the same thing. So why can't I see it? That's the problem. Take the case of Sri Ramakrishna, which is the most wonderful thing to explain right now. For me, this world is real. For him, the state of samadhi characterized by the knowledge of absolute is real. And there is no reason for us to doubt Sri Ramakrishna, because the sheer power that he wielded He could mold personalities like Swami Vivekananda. He could convert Narendranath into Swami Vivekananda and many others. And all the famous personalities of the then Kolkata had realized it. Well, we have a great person here. Even Max Muller wrote about him. That's not an ordinary thing. So anyway, let's say that we are ready to believe the words of the scriptures, the words of Sri Ramakrishna, and the words of all the spiritual masters of the world. What stops us from knowing that real as compared to this real? Because we all know this to be real. The answer is Maya. That is the transformation from the absolute to the relative, the transformation from the absolute to multiplicity is not real. Now, that's a very, very serious problem because we, howsoever learned we might be, howsoever wise we might be, since our childhood, we have been trained into the art of relating cause and effect. We believe in cause and effect. Science believes in cause and effect. Science is all about cause and effect. And howsoever weird a theory may sound, ultimately, a new theory replaces an old theory by a better cause and effect system. It's all about cause and effect. Now, suddenly you say that there is no cause and effect. The absolute has become the relative by the will of God, and it is Maya. So, naturally, we would like to know what is Maya. Now, Maya is like something difficult to explain because if you explain Maya, it doesn't remain Maya. Maya is simply a statement of fact. What is a statement of fact? Something, something that we all experience all the time, and yet we fail to appreciate it. The example used in Vedanta are various for that. The principle remains the same. When a thing, that is something, appears as something else, the reality does not actually change. And yet, to the perceiver, the reality has changed. This change in perception is Maya. The example used, very, very favorite example of the Vedantins, is when in darkness you confuse a rope for a snake. So the rope now appears as snake. Has the rope really become snake? It hasn't. This misperception, this misperception is Maya. So the other examples they use is mirage. You see water in desert. Same thing is happening. Wherever there is misperception, misapprehension, that means there is something and appears as something else. So more interestingly, gold and ornament. This gold and the gold is converted into ornament. Now, is this transformation of gold to ornament real or apparent? It is apparent. It's apparent. Ocean and waves. How real are the waves? Well, waves are real till you are watching them. If you perceive waves as ocean, there is no wave. So, the transformed reality that you perceive appears to you as real, but actually it's not real. The idea is Atman alone exists, consciousness alone exists, and yet it appears to us as this world, as time, as events, as lots of things. And once once one of these things appear, everything else come, and the game begins. Unstoppable game. How to stop this game? There is no way you can stop, or anyone can stop this game. But you can get out of this game. How to get out of this game? Know the real, and the game stops. Sri Ramakrishna used to narrate a very simple example story, that there was somebody who had put on a mask and was trying to scare away the kids. And suddenly one of the kids realized, oh, you are so and so. Now, after that, he had no fear of that person. But as far as other kids are concerned, they continue to be scared. So Maya exists only for them who are under its spell. And that's why we cannot understand Maya. And those who are beyond it, they know that it doesn't have any real existence. Why it doesn't have any real existence? Because a very serious problem comes. In our scriptures. Liberation, that is freedom, has been described as permanent, forever. If Maya were to be real, in that case, once you acquire freedom, once you become free, you can again be imprisoned. For example, those of you who are familiar with our justice system know that a person is in jail, and he completes his that imprisonment period, comes out, and he commits some crime, may not commit some crime, and he's put back in the jail. That means his freedom is not permanent. If Maya were to be real, then freedom will not be permanent. That means mukti, as far as we understand, the way we understand, will have no meaning. And all these scriptures will become invalid, completely invalid. Then we will depend on the sweet will of God to be under bondage and to be free. Whenever he wants, wherever he wants. 1 minute you are free, another moment you are bound. This is what kind of existence is this? It makes no sense. That's why idea like God's will and all, they don't make any sense. So we get a glimpse of Maya Bhed, how to pierce this screen. Even if you consider the screen to be real, you have to know how and what happens. This hymn is dedicated to Maya Bhed. Maya Bhed itself, basically it means God. And the sage is Patanga Prajapatya, Patang, son of Prajapati. Actually, it is addressed to sun god, but as in Gāyatrī mantra, it's universal. This is this hymn. It's a very unusual hymn, esoteric. It means you have to dive deep to understand what exactly it means to say. Profound, sublime. Patangam maktam asurasya maya arda pasyanti manasa vipaschitaha. See, Maya, word has again come. Samudre antah kavayo vichakshate marichinam padam icchanti vedasaha. The simple meaning is pretty simple. The sages see with their mind. That means you don't see it outside, you see within. Where? Seated in your heart. When you meditate, all realizations take place in your heart. Physical heart? No. Spiritual heart. If you dissect a body, you'll not be able to see the spiritual heart. But if you meditate and if your Kundalini awakens, you will know. People who have their Kundalini, whose Kundalini has awakened, they know it. They know it. And I personally talk to such people. I mean, I know them personally, so there is no question for doubting it. The sages see with their mind. This expression, seeing with your mind, within yourself, the real of the reality that appears outside. That means the reality that we are seeing outside, not that reality, but the reality that is behind that reality. What? The sun made manifest by Maya. We will explain it. The wise look into the solar orb for the ordainer, and the knower desires the abode of the rays. Actually, doesn't make much of sense, but we will have to explain one by one. Says essentially it's about God and Maya. That is the supreme reality and the power that covers it. Because Maya is, when it comes to Maya at cosmic level, it's God's power. Says Hrida Pashyanti Manasa Vipassita. The sages see it within their hearts. It's a very clear thing. Like as in most religions, you lead a very good life, you lead a devoted life, and after death you go to heaven, which nobody has seen, which has been promised maybe in their sacred books, and which many believe, which many do not want to believe, but for the fear of being called a heretic and being punished for that, they believe. That's not true with Hindu religion. Hindus say, you yourself will see. Come sit and meditate. Know the basics and proceed. And you will know. How? You will see directly in your heart the real. How? The vrittis of your mind, that is mental modifications caused by your senses, caused by your imagination, caused by your delusions, and any other means, memories, when they cease to affect your mind completely. That means your mind becomes like a calm surface of an ocean, calm surface of a lake that can help you see what lies beneath. Those of you who are truly interested can listen to our talks on Raj Yoga. Raj Yoga talks are there. We have discussed it in detail there. So, silencing of your mind and seeing of the divine light within your heart, they are one and the same. The moment your mind becomes calm, you see the divine light. If you are seeing the divine light, it means your mind is calm. So you don't have to die. You don't have to go to Kasi and die to go to have this mukti. You can have it right away. Or various religions talk about various kinds of heaven. Like if somebody can kill many, suicide bombing and all, then God will be waiting for them. No, we don't have this concept. Spirituality is a personal thing which has to be attained here, which can be attained here. That means in our system, if you go to hell, if you go to the heaven, if you go to the Patal Lok or any of the spheres, there is no possibility of your mukti, because those places are meant for reaping the fruits of what you have done. Until you become one with God, you will be born again and again. How to be one with God? Where you can be one with God? Only here on this earth. Now, so what did the sage see? Says, Patangam aktam asurasya maya. The sun made manifest by Maya. Patang actually means anything that moves, patanga. In our Indian languages, patang and their derivatives are pretty common in use. Like even kites that are flown by our kids. It's known as patanga. And some insects are also known as patanga. Anything that moves is patanga. Here it is God. Says, Patangam aktam asurasya maya. Akta means to be made. And the sun that you see has been made by God, by the power of his Maya, which by its very nature is Asura, all consuming. Maya is all consuming. Now, Asura, whenever we use the word Asura, the normal idea about Asura is that it's demonic. But Asura actually means all consuming. Compared to Asura, the Suras, that is the gods, they're not all consuming. They are very choosy about what they eat, what they drink, how they live. Asura is all consuming. So, Maya being all consuming, it won't give freedom to anyone. So, what we see as sun is actually God. But that God, when covered by Maya, now appears as sun. Now, why sun? Why not moon? Why not stars? The simple reason is sun is the most powerful entity that we know. There might be stars which are far more brilliant than the sun, both in size and its light. But for us, as far as we are concerned, sun is most important thing, and that's why sun is worshipped as God. And here also, sun is being worshipped as God. Sun being the most important thing, it's being said that it's God Himself who appears as sun. Now, why can't we see sun as God? Because Maya has covered it. So, but we don't even see the sun. They'll say yes, because of its orb. Sun is continuously letting out its light. Rashmi. Rays of light are continuously coming out of the sun. So you cannot even see sun and you cannot see the face of God in it. Actually, this is one of those allegorical poems. Those of you who have studied Ishopanishad, like we have talks on Ishopanishad, you might find that in our playlist. There, the sage prays, Hiranmayena patrena satyasyapi hita mukham tattvam pushan apavrunu. That the sun God, who represents God Himself in the solar sphere, His face is covered by these rays of light. So He's withdraw it. Actually, it means God. God, which is covered by Maya. And this whole of universe is spread of that Maya. And the Maya is so thick or so bright because we are deluded by Maya. We are running after wealth. We are running after fame. We are running after pleasure. We are running after comfort. We are running after happiness. Running after 1,000 things. Why? They are so pleasing. They're so bright. And the power that is sending it, just imagine how powerful that would be. The problem is that this brightness, this brightness is so palpable, so near us, we cannot let this go. And because we cannot let it go, we are unable to see the face of God. Sri Ramakrishna used to say very beautiful stories. Now, nowadays, of course, it's not applicable. In earlier times, we did not have central storage system for grains, etc. And now, of course, they have pesticides, etc. But earlier times, there used to be certain kind of granary, particularly for those who were rich. We have seen that in our villages. And the rats would attack them. So very often, to save that storehouse from the attack of the rats, some sweetened rice, etc., used to be spread around it. And rat, attracted by their fragrance, smell, and taste, they would never attack the main store. So we are like that. We are so overpowered by the beauty of this world that we never want to see the real beauty from where all this is coming. The real beauty whose absolutely faded carbon copy is this world. The every kind of happiness that you can think of, just a faded carbon copy. Sri Ramakrishna used to say that one who has experienced the beauty of God would see the most beautiful nymphs like ashes of a funeral pyre. So surprising, it's massive what Sri Ramakrishna said. Of course, because we have no idea about what God is, how God is, we remain confined in this world. We keep on running after the trinkets, leaving the jewelry alone. So, sun and rays. What the sage means to say here is that you have to meditate on the solar orb. That means essentially you have to sit down for meditation and you have to desire to attain that state where you can see God. And for that, Vedas, you have to know that all the multiplicity that is there in this world, every multiplicity that is here, is actually from Him. The expressions are Marichinam, sun rays. All these multiplicity, they merge into the oneness of God once you can realize God. That means the multiplicity is not really real. That means it's not an effect of some cause. It just appears there. Whenever we talk about merging something, it simply means that when you say that effect has merged into the cause, it means cause and effect were actually one. They were never differentiated. So, simple thing is that, put very simply, it means that you have to understand that God is behind this universe which appears with all its beauties, all its aura. If you want God, if you want to know God, you have to focus your mind. That means you have to take your perception from the multiplicity to the one, and you can attain it. He says, पतंगो वाचम मनसा बिभर्ति तांग गंधर्वो अवदत गर्भे अंतः तम द्योतमानाम स्वर्यम मनीषा अमृतस्य पदे कवयो निपांति. Those of you who have some knowledge of Sanskrit know that this the mantras that we are explaining, they are of different kind. These are not ordinary Sanskrit. Sun bears the word in his mind. Pran has spoken it, abiding within the womb. Sages cherish it in the place of worship, brilliant, heavenly, ruling the mind. Actually, it explains the process of creation, how multiplicity comes from the one. It says that the soul, which is known as Jiva, actually abides within God. And God is here being compared to an ocean. In the Vedas, we often come across this comparison where God is compared to the ocean. And says that words, the sum total of ideas, Vacham, walk. That's why Saraswati is worshipped as goddess of words, Vak Devi. It stays with every soul. That means whole of knowledge is within us, as Swami Vivekananda used to say. We have all the knowledge, all power within us. Because the Jeev, the soul, is one with God. Being one with God, all the knowledge is there. And so the wise never neglect words. That means no sage worth his name will ever ignore knowledge. You know, there are many people who listen to our talks on this channel. And sometimes some elderly people or people from here and there, they come and meet us and they say that, well, they listen to this series of talks. And I always tell them that, look, you should listen to every series of talk. See, your duties will continue, your engagement will continue, but you have done enough. Why continue doing that? Find out 1 hour a day. At least find 1 hour a day for yourself. Listen to all the talks. And as you listen to all the talks, your knowledge base expands. It says, every soul has all the knowledge within it. Knowing this, these sages never neglect knowledge. Never. A person who neglects knowledge is finished. That has been the bane of India. I mean, Brahmins had knowledge, but they did not share it with the masses. That was a major reason for the downfall of India. Of course, it was partly true of every society. You know, there's a very famous saying that telescope would have been discovered during the Roman period itself, because the Roman glass makers already knew about the property of putting two lenses together and seeing things differently. The knowledge was with the philosophers. The instrument was with the lowest class of glass workers, and they never interacted. And the science itself had to wait for more than 15 years for the discovery of telescope. And just imagine what would have happened to the Christian world if telescope had been discovered 15 years before Galileo discovered it. It's a very interesting thing, because that's one big problem, that those who have knowledge, they don't like to interact with the lower classes, But now, of course, we live in a free society, and this kind of discrimination is not only unacceptable, it cannot happen now. So, this idea about importance of knowledge, importance of word, it was in Greek tradition also, where they call it logos. In the Bible also, you find in the beginning was word, and the word was with God, and word was God. So, then it says, Gandharva. Gandharva normally means kind of demigods, but here it means one who holds knowledge, which holds the word basically. In Indian tradition, it's known as prana. The vital energies they contain, because without the vital energies, you cannot have this knowledge. So, prana contains this knowledge. Actually, one name for prana is Hiranya Garbha in Saint tradition. So, it may mean that when God wanted to create, first was Brahma, Hiranyagarbha, and he had all the knowledge, he had the Vedas, and he let out the Vedas. Actually, the word is Ved. We use Vedas because that's the common expression, and it also implies the four Vedas. Now, this is a very popular belief in the Indian traditions that whenever there is creation, the first thing to come out is knowledge. That is Ved. And creation takes place strictly on the lines of the Ved. So one who knows Ved, he knows the secret of creation. And says, what is the quality of that word? Is brilliant, heavenly, and ruler of mind. And it is preserved by the sages. The sages preserve the Vedas. How? In the abode of truth. That is God. Actually, the whole thing means simply, initially, Ved was in the mind of God. That is something as Christian tradition also says, the word was with God, word was God. And then it was uttered by him. That becomes the basis of creation. And now it is preserved by the sages. That's why you'll find that in every old religion, that is a religion that continues to be there, those who preserve the tradition of scriptures, they were highly respected, highly venerated. That is true of the Jewish religion and Parsi religion both, as also of Hindu religion. So today we find that Brahmins are criticized by the masses, but they forget that the Brahmins were actually the protector of, they preserved the knowledge of the Vedas, and it was done in Jewish traditions too, and in Zoroastrian traditions too. That was the system, because in those days writing had not yet evolved fully, and they used to memorize the whole thing and keep in their head. Now, anyone which is extremely relevant for us, anyone who wants to realize God has to know that truth. First, you have to go get it from the person who has that knowledge, and then know the meaning of it, and then meditate on it to be free. Simplest meaning. I'm making it very simple. Mantra 2. Initially, we explained the mantra. Now, simply means the word. That means the knowledge. It permeates the entire universe. And this knowledge was first with God. It was uttered by Him. Those utterances are in various scriptures. And if you are interested in knowing about various religions, you'll know that how the followers of a particular religion respect their scriptures because they believe that to be the word of God. If you want to pierce the veil of Maya, if you want to be one with God, first you have to get that knowledge. You have to know the Vedas, or at least a part of it. That means that which appeals to you. Meditate on it. Make your mind calm. Go beyond it. But that's what every religion says. Obey God and you will go to the heaven. No, it says, Apashyam gopam anipadyamanam acha paracha pativischarantam sa sadrichi sa vishuchirvasan avarirvati ubneshu antaha. I beheld the ever-present God. Here comes the specialty of the Hindu tradition. For example, in other religions also you'll find where the prophet saying that he has seen God. But here it means that I have seen it, you also can see it. That's the fundamental difference between Hindu religion and other religions. I beheld the ever-present God who moves on his path in various ways. Can God move in various ways? God who is infinite? No, God cannot move because God is infinite. But since this universe is here, and because universe is here, there are various spheres. And since there are various spheres, there are various kinds of beings, and God is present everywhere. This is put poetically as God moving in various ways. So when a snake moves in a particular style of its motion, it's God who is moving like that because nothing is outside God. He fills the universe with light. It's God who fills the universe with daylight. It's He who glows at night in the form of stars. It's He who glows in the form of knowledge and moves constantly in the midst of the worlds. We had mentioned how when Narendranath came and asked Sri Ramakrishna, Narendranath used to ask various ancient sages. And when he asked Sri Ramakrishna, have you seen God? He boldly said, yes, I have seen it and I can make you too see him. This is the speciality of Hindu religion. The teacher says, yes, I have seen. I can make you also see. But that was between Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda. Not everybody can do that. However, if there is one instance, there can be any number of instances. That's the beauty of it. Sage is saying boldly, yes, I have seen. I bail the protector. Gopa means one who protects. What's the nature of this protector? He never rests. God is always on move. Because if he rests, the world will be ruined. In Gita, Sri Krishna says, Yadihang na varteyam jatu karmanya tandrita. If I take rest, if I take a break, even for a moment, the whole thing, Usideyu Rime Loka, everything will, Usideyu Rime Loka is, of course, in the first chapter, but the idea is same. The whole thing will be ruined, completely destroyed. Because Mam Vartmanu Vartante. People follow what I do. Whatever the lokas, whatever the spheres, everything will go into Utsanna, will be destroyed, ruined. If your God is constantly not on move, he has to be on move, he has to be present. That is, the presence of God is always there. Because wherever there is no presence of God, it's a leak, it's non existent. If God is not there, an object is known as Anishwara. It does not exist. It has no existence. So, God is there as Sun. God is there as starlit night. So, He never rests and He never lets anything down. God, He is ever present. But more importantly, He can be directly perceived here. This is the purport of this hymn, Maya Bheda. So it's a small hymn of just three verses, three mantras, but extremely profound. First thing is the idea of Maya. Second is the idea of God. Third is one has to go beyond Maya to know God. And most importantly, the fourth one, the says, I have perceived, I've beheld, I've seen God. Oh, human beings, you too do the same. Thank you so much. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shri Ram Krishna.